Listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm very privileged to have Mr. Rocco Paulo here, all the way from Canada, and he's a filmmaker, actor, musician, and author, all kinds of good things, and we're going to learn a little bit more about him and have a great conversation. And so, to start this off, tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you mentioned, the name is Rocco Paulo. I'm in Montreal, so that's in the province of Quebec, the French nation of Canada. Born and raised here. So as far as my background is concerned, I was always interested in music. You know, grew up listening to a lot of Elvis Presley and things of that nature. So I started, doing the hairbrush thing and singing in front of the mirror. Picked up a guitar, took a few lessons, and started writing music pretty much right away. And then, started getting into doing music videos myself. I like video cameras, I liked editing, and it led to short films. And finally, just recently put together a feature film called The Dinner Party. And that's it.
Can you tell us a little bit about Dinner Party?
Yeah, so Dinner Party, I did a few short films, and I said, I wanted to challenge myself. I always try to challenge myself as much as I can. So I said, I want to do a feature film. So how do I go about doing that, especially for $0? And in a short amount of time, because we know time is precious, everybody's busy. So I said, let's see if we can shoot a feature film over a weekend. So I found a long weekend, a 3-day weekend. And I said, okay, so now I have a date set. Now I got to write something. So I said, I got to write something that's going to be able to be shot in 2 to 3 days. So that's where Dinner Party came to mind, because I said, well, people around the table, maybe in the kitchen, dining room, entranceway. So, there's no big car chases. There's no need of like multiple locations. And then I said, okay, well, I'll shoot it at my place. There, it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to even rent a place. So at that point I said, okay, now I got to write the script. So I wrote the script. It was 6 strangers invited to a dinner party. So that was the premise. Okay, so I have to think about, okay, so who invited them? Why are they there? What's going on? Is this a murder mystery? Is this a thriller? Is this a comedy? Is this a drama? I don't know, but it goes a bit back and forth. Now I got to find actors. So good old Facebook helped a lot with that. There's different groups out there. So I started putting ads in Facebook, doing a lot of Zoom calls. People were still kind of, mask wearing and not really going face to face. A lot of the movies filmed in town would also, you would have to wear masks. You have to show your vaccination and stuff. So it was a little complicated. So we did everything by Zoom, hoping that things would clear out by the time we were ready to shoot. So I found my actors. The first actor I found happened to live like 5 hours away, and he was ready to jump on board. I was like, okay, if you're willing to do I saw your actor's reel, looks great. So that was Steve, and he played one of the characters. And what I did too is when I put the posting, I basically said, I took 6 unisex names. I also put be between the ages of 18 and 60, and didn't really state if it was male, female, whatever. I didn't, I said, I'm keeping it open. Let's see who applies and who's ready to jump on board on this project. So that I thought was also very, very good, because, middle-aged people, for example, rarely get a chance getting roles in a film. And, everybody's looking for 18 to 20, sometimes maybe up to 22. And so I opened it up that way, and like I said, so the gender didn't matter either. So I got my 6 actors for that, the 6 main. There was a 7th character, which was a kind of, when I wrote it, I said, what, there's still a couple of holes in this storyline, and so I said I have to add a 7th character to kind of like gel everything together. So because when I'm watching movies, I'm always like, hey, that doesn't make any sense or whatever. It's like, oh, that's where the 7th character comes in. All of a sudden there's a 7th character that kind of, explains everything. Is the 7th character the host? We don't know. So that was that. So I wrote that. We started doing table reads, via Zoom. Then we're ready for the date. So we had a couple of meetings where some of the people were able to come to my house to do the table read. But of course, since one person was 5 hours away, that was Steve. And you also had Danielle. She is like 3.5 hours away or something of that nature. And they're all volunteering their time, right? So I'm like humbled by that. I'm like, this is, it's asking a lot. Plus, it's a long weekend. You're going to be spending it away from your family. You're going to be spending it at my house doing this. The day before we were shooting, one of the 6 pulled out and said, I can't do it. So I'm like, okay, well, it's like it's 6 main characters. They all have remembered their lines. They're all ready to go. There's a bit of improv. But I'm like, okay, now what do we do? It's like, I can't cancel because I have one guy who's coming from 5 hours away. He's already got a hotel and the whole shebang, right? It's money out of his pocket to get there. So I'm trying to revamp it all. I said, no matter what, we're doing this. So they came over. I also had 2 people helping me. One with sound, who is a close friend of mine who's never done sound before. So we didn't have like lapel mics or anything like that. It's just the boom mic. So he did a great job with that. That was Fred. And then I had Alex. I helped him out on 2 of his short films. So I called him up and I said, I'm doing a film. Would you help me out? And he said, yeah, over the weekend. He goes, how long's the film? And I said, I'm guessing about 80 minutes. And he's like, 80 minutes? Like, how are you going to do that in 2 days? He goes, I've been shooting short films over 3 weeks and I'm getting like 5 minutes. I'm like, well, I go, this is the plan. So, and the thing too is another thing I did with this script is I only shared acts 1 and 2. So there's 3 acts. So they only got 70% of the script. So even they had no clue how the movie would end. So they just memorized the first part. And I said, I'm going to share it to you once you're here, right before shooting, you will know where the story goes. Right? So they were in the dark. So we shot that, and we actually shot it in 2 days. I think in total, probably about 15 hours. I took a lot of the first takes. We tried to shoot a lot of like 10-minute sequences, and I also let them ad lib a bit, more so because we were missing a character. So we're now down to 5 strangers. So we did that, and I actually do a cameo. So there's an 8th character that gets added in. So we had to kind of like adapt to kind of get that all together. So, the big challenge here is, first of all, is, because main reason I did this is there's a lot of people I know that, make up excuses, right? They're like, I don't have the equipment. I don't have the time. It's like, how am I supposed to do this? It's like, look, I just shot a feature in 2 days. This actually comes out to 70 minutes. So the fact that we got 70 minutes with 1 character less was still impressive to me. I thought we'd probably go down to 60 minutes. So it's a 70-minute movie. I did all the editing. I did the soundtrack, since I do music. So the soundtrack's in there. I did the, sound design, color correction. Do I know any of this stuff? No. You kind of watch YouTube videos, you kind of wing it. A professional is probably going to look at it and say, the color grading's horrible. But it's gotten into festivals. It's actually won 3 awards so far. Wow. So yeah, so I'm like, I'm quite happy with the final product, because the sound, for me, the thing that was most important was going to be the sound, because I knew that image-wise, we're not putting up a bunch of lights. We're not using, umbrellas and all that stuff. There's no makeup. So it's sort of like we're relying really on the story and the acting. And the acting was incredible. So, we have, so you have Leia, who plays Danny. You have Danielle, who's playing Brooke. You have Steve that's playing Leslie. Michael is playing Stace. You have Bo, who's playing Quinn, and then you have for the smaller role, you have Sergio that's playing Blake. So I see the names are all kind of like, they can go either way. And the character that we ended up losing was Riley. So that was, it was weird too, because at the end, there was, I guess I had some like print screens already like set up with all the names, and so I had to scramble and fix it, make sure that it's no longer there in the credits. And so yeah, it was very challenging. I also like to do it in 2 days. Like we just had in Montreal, we started up again. There's a group, well, the Rain Dance, which is a festival in London. They have a Montreal office, and they do like they call a booze and schmooze event. They do it every like month. So
Yeah.
we all got together for that just a couple of weeks ago. So where people can talk about what they're working on, what they've done, what they're looking for, and and again, it's sort of like you did a feature in 2 days. Like it's like, how the hell did you do that? But you got to think, like, it's 15 hours. So I got 70 minutes out of 15 hours. So it is possible, right? It's not like it's just that you have to not, you have to kind of like not be such a perfectionist. You have to sit back, realize, you know what, there's going to be little glitches. There's going to be some issues with lighting. Once you put your head beyond all that and sit there and say, you know what, I'm putting out a project. I know that it's $0. So don't expect, the world. But when I look at the finished product, I've seen movies that are actually worse that have a budget, right? There's some low budget films out there that maybe for even like $1 million that you're watching and you're just like, first of all, the story's horrible, the acting's horrible, the lighting's horrible, like everything about it is horrible. But you're like, how did you get this movie made? Like, how did you get the budget to do this? And still, well, but million's not that much, but still, like in my case, the only thing that it cost me was the food. I supplied food for everybody. So maybe it cost me $300 in the end for 2 days of making sure there was coffee, that there was, muffins and stuff for lunch. I barbecued some hamburgers for lunch, and my wife helped a lot on it too. She was making sure the coffee was fresh and and things like that. She of course said never again, like never again, not in our house, because it was 4 days of prep, well, 2 days of prep, 2 days of shooting. So the first 2 days I had to basically grab a bunch of stuff it into our bedrooms, right? To make room and change, make sure that there's room for 5 people or 6 people to move around in the space. I went to Costco to get some blackout curtains, and then of course returned them. So there we go. So you paid for them, you bring them back. I even bought some one light to put on the camera to help a bit from Amazon, sent that back after we're finished shooting. So yeah, so there's a charge on my credit card, and then it goes back to zero. So maybe I should have put Amazon and Costco as sponsors.
There you go.
But yeah, very pleased with how it turned out. Everybody did a great job. And, when they sat there, I think on the Saturday, and we're reading like Act 3. So, they were in there probably since like February or March, and we shot it in May. And they were just like, obviously, I want to know how this movie ends. I'm in this movie. I don't even know what's going on. So that I thought was also it really brought out another dynamic for Act 3, because obviously there's more improv because they couldn't really memorize all the lines. But it also added a freshness to it. And I think it's Clint Eastwood who does that a lot with his actors, where they don't really learn the lines or, until like maybe an hour before they have to shoot, like, so that it becomes fresh and it doesn't become too, because sometimes I find with certain things where actors will learn the lines, repeat it. Yes, sometimes it can come out natural, and other times it just comes out too blah, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Sort of like some people, like when you look at people praying and they do the standard prayer, it just comes out, and it's like it's not as there's no emotion behind it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't sound natural.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when you're doing a prayer, sometimes you have to kind of think, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And you'll stumble a little bit. I like it when it's natural, not when it sounds like it's rehearsed,
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, I had a filmmaker on my show a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about Hollywood and how people are kind of falling out of love with it. it's like they're falling back on the CGI and not really the story.
Yep.
It's got the same formula to each movie, and of course it doesn't help that half the actors are put down their audience when they don't like the movie. But with that in mind, we're kind of counting on you guys that are making these independent films to bring a new dynamic to us, because we're tired of the Hollywood stuff. I had that guy that I was talking to. He had filmed his in just a few days. I find that remarkable that y'all are able to do that, but you're thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of genius when you can do something like that. It's not that, oh my God, you can't do that. That's just impossible. And you just proved you can. That's inspiring. There's somebody out there that might be thinking, oh, I'd love to make a movie. And you've just proved, yeah, I can do it in a weekend. It's not a big deal.
I mean, my short films, quite a few of my short films were shot like in a 3-hour span, right?
Mhm.
So there's ways to do it. It's just that, like I said, you have to break away from, like I worked on one project where it was ridiculous. They really went overboard. They made sure they had all the equipment, the walkie-talkies. And I'm like, walkie-talkies, we're like 5 feet from each other. Like, but they felt they needed all this, right? They had all these umbrellas that were never used. So they spent a lot of money on making it look as professional as can possibly be. But it's like, really? Like, I mean, I even worked on a commercial recently where it took them 3 days to do a 2-minute commercial, like 3 full days, where there was no dialogue. So you had no sound. So I'm like, but
Why?
they had big equipment, large team. They were like 30 people in the staff. They had like 2 directors, I think. And I was like, look, years ago I worked on a film with Richard Attenborough, a guy who did Gandhi, and it was a small little team, and he's got one small little screen. And I'm like, here I'm working a commercial, and there's like 2 directors, and there's a team of 30, and I'm like, really? Like, but it's about, clients are impressed by equipment, right? So if I go to a client, I just show up with, I don't know, my iPhone or my Samsung and say, yeah, I'm going to shoot because you can do 4K, you can do whatever you want on a camera now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he's going to look at the guy with the red camera and say, I'm going to hire him. He's charging me 100,000, so he's going to do a better job than you. And then you look at the finished product, and you're just like, no, not really. Like, did you really need all that? Sometimes you do, and other times it depends on the project. But people think that I mean, I had a friend who had a recording studio. What
Yeah.
he did is he had all these modules that weren't even attached to the board, and he would just turn them all on, right? So all these, it's basically Christmas lights. But he goes, customers come in, they see all this, and they sign right away, and they sign on the dotted line. Look, all the stuff he's got. But he goes, I never use any of it. There's no wires in the back connecting to my board. But it's like they're like, wow, So people are impressed by that. And so, like I said, we shot this, with a Sony camera. We had, like I said, a light which I got off Amazon, returned it. We had a boom mic, and even the boom mics. There's ways. I mean, I created I have like an H1 microphone, which is like under $100, and I created I took like a lens, I guess a lens hood with tape and elastics, and you stick it in there, and it balances it out, and it's like, for $2, stick it on a long boom, actually my mic stand, and use that quite a few times for short films. So do you need the greatest equipment? No. I mean, I record my music here in my basement. Is it totally soundproof? No. But with the internet, with laptops, with you can pretty much for $300 have good enough equipment. Yes, it's not going to sound like I did at a 24-track studio. I've done that too, but for most people are going to listen to it on their earpods as an MP3. do I really need to, give the greatest quality when in the end you're going to compress it into the point that it just sounds completely filtered, and you're listening to earbuds on YouTube or on Spotify. So like you can do the greatest mix once you've sent it to all the distributors out there. They're compressing it. They're doing all kinds of stuff to it too. So it's not going to be, your beautiful mix that you did that you're listening to on your, $20,000 speakers in your room. You're like, wow, this sounds amazing. Sounds great. Now I'm going to send it to Spotify, and then you listen to it back like, what? What they do to my song? It's like, but yeah, for the 20 people that are going to stream it, you put in, whatever, like $3,000 into your song. If that's great, if that's what you really want to do, fine. But if you don't have the 3,000, you can easily still do it and have your songs out there. My songs have played on the radio. They still do. They play on internet radio, FM radio. And I've done them for $0 basically because I have pirate software, maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, it's not like you're putting out Dark Side of the Moon or something where you need all that fancy stuff. I find that really creative, and I don't know if it's as true, but I heard that somebody had made a whole movie and did it on their phone.
In the end, because I was thinking maybe we should shoot this all on the phone, and I regret not doing so. Not because it didn't come out well, but it's because even with a camera like that and my small spaces, and we have like 5 or 6 people, it was difficult to try and get them all in the same frame. And because the camera was still like that, right, versus like this, where it could have been as close as possible to be able to shoot. So I think if I was to do a project like this again, first of all, I can't do it at my house. My wife said absolutely not. So I'll have to shoot it elsewhere. But I would probably do it with a phone. And there are film festivals that are just uniquely like smartphone or iPhone festivals. So there are movies that are shot. I think there was even not a major, but still one with a pretty big budget that was shot completely on iPhone. I'm not sure if it was Soderbergh or somebody well known who did a film where it was shot entirely on an iPhone. So yeah.
Well, just think of what's that movie, Paranormal Activity?
Yep.
I mean, it's not like they used a whole bunch of fancy equipment for that, right?
Blair Witch Project, right? I mean, that was
that's what it was, Blair Witch.
Well, even Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity looked like everything was shot on a security camera.
Yeah, that wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, Hollywood is kind of proven that even with all the fancy equipment and all the CGI and big budget stuff, they still put out garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen the new Rings of Power from the Tolkien series. They spent $1 billion on this TV series and it's garbage. Nobody likes it.
Yeah, that I saw. Even Elon Musk came out and had something to say about it, right?
Yeah, he did. I mean, you see some of the special effects are awful. And how you spend $1 billion and you don't get the special effects right, I don't get it.
But there's also, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, I've worked on film, and you kind of see how money is just like thrown out the window on a lot of things, right? So like, for example, even the film I worked for with Richard Attenborough, where I was hired to be, because I've done sound, they say, okay, we need a sound technician on site to make sure that people are turning the knobs correctly, right? So I'm like, so they're paying me, and it was like taking place in the 1940s. So they had these reporters with units, and and he goes, because they're going to be turning the dial and whatever, so I just want to make sure that they're turning the dial the way somebody who knows what they're doing. And I'm like, I've never seen this equipment to begin with, and the knob is either you turn left, you turn right, like there's nothing complicated about that, I'm guessing. So, but I had to act like I knew what I was talking about, right? Because I've done sound, but I'm like, I have no idea what that unit is, but I figure it's a volume knob that goes left or right, and you're just going to turn it in one direction, and maybe kind of like, the scene was never even in the film, like it just never even happened. So so they had to pay me stupid money to kind of like act like this pro, and in the end, it's like the scene wasn't even you. So there's a lot of things like that. I was in a commercial once where this was years ago. So I had long hair at the time, and they were shooting it. So it was supposed to be like the first settlers of Canada. It was a commercial, and they said, okay, everybody's hair is too long, so we're going to pay you all like whatever, $200 to have it cut. Like we'll cut off 2 inches off your hair. So what I did is we all had big hats. So I took my hair and I kind of like folded it and whatever. So I didn't get cut, but I still got paid as if I had it cut. So at the end of the day, everybody's like looking, it's like my hair is still long up to here. Everybody's hair is up to their shoulders. And they're like, bastard. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like, it's like we all got paid like with something like $1,000 for this commercial. That took like half a day, and all these like little things. Well, if you trim your mustache, you're gonna get 100, and if we do this, and it's just
Gone.
money just out the window.
That wouldn't have been worth it for me. I'm not cutting my hair for $1,000. If it was $10 million, well, then I would probably say, where's the scissors? I'll do it myself. But
Yeah, exactly.
for $1,000, no sir.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest hurdle in your career, whether it's been in film or music or anything?
I mean, the biggest hurdle is always, you want to make a living off this.
Mhm.
And that's something that you have to come to terms. Now, if you really want to make a living, again, this is generalized because some people do make a great living off music or film, is you got to realize that you're going to be eating a lot of ramen, a lot of mac and cheese. And that's where at one point I kind of like stopped doing music and stopped doing everything because, I had a girlfriend at the time. We were looking at, starting a life together. And I was like, I can live off, ramen and mac and cheese, but now I got other people, wife and most likely children. So that was the biggest hurdle for me, was going to the 9 to 5. And it took about 10 years. I think I had like I went into a depression. I went into, and I couldn't understand what was going on, but then it hit me that, I hadn't done music or anything in 10 years. So I was like, I recorded an album. You took the songs that inspired me the most, and everybody kind of jumped on board. And then there was that whole serendipity moments and stuff where, for example, there was a guitar player I knew that, he's played with David Bowie, and we got along great, but I lost touch with him. And then when I was doing the album, I said, I really wanted to play in a couple of my songs. So I sent, that message to the universe. I said, you know what, I really want this guy playing. And back then it was MySpace, right? Before Facebook and all that. So I found that he was working with a bass player. I didn't know the bass player, but I sent an email to the bass player and I said, hey, can you send this off to Tony? Supposedly he did. But the thing is, my phone number back then, I would always put it based on the letters on your phone. So I think I was getting ready to finish the album. So this was like in February, and I think in April it was ready to be like going out to be mastered. So in February I get a call. I see a number on the phone. I'm like, I don't recognize this number. I pick it up. It's Tony. And he goes, I got in your email a long time ago. And then I was going through my emails to delete them, like just doing a cleanup. And then, I looked again at yours and I saw these like letters or whatever. And I said, maybe that's a phone number. So he goes, I figured it out and I dialed it. And I said, I'm going in studio. And I go, would you be willing to? And he goes, absolutely. He goes, I haven't seen you in like 10 years. 'Cause I used to basically, every time he would come to a show, I would go backstage, I would hang out with him. He was, he recorded his own album and stuff like that. So I was constantly, but I was like 10 years ago, I haven't seen him since, right? It's like, I'm just a groupie basically, right? So he said, yeah. And the funny thing too, I had won studio time from a contest and in not far from where he lives. And he's like a good 5 hours away from me. So I was like, so I had the studio time. He's now ready to jump on board. I was like, this is incredible, right? So we, went into the studio. He recorded 3 songs for me. I was just, that was like a dream come true. I had a friend of mine also who, Kim Richardson, amazing singer. She's done backup vocals for just about every big name out there. She, did, a track or two on that album, all done in my basement, or I have like a portable unit I would bring. And for example, with Tony Springer, he had the studio time, so that was great. So we're actually in a full studio to record that. But the thing is, you gotta do as much as you possibly can. Go out there. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of failure. Because for me, when people say, well, how do you define success? For me, success really is finishing the project, and that's it. Like people say, well, that's not success. I say, yeah, success. I can't control how many records sell or this or that, or if people are going to hear it. I don't have that promotional team behind me. But for me, it's like, did I finish the project? I can put a check mark. That's success. If I don't finish a project, I have to get back to do it. Like, for example, my book, The Damu Chronicles, Emails with a Sumerian God. That, again, is based on a true story. It happened to a co-worker. Way it worked is me and my co-worker, we always talk about conspiracy theories, all kinds of stuff, aliens, paranormal. We loved all that stuff. And then we went into different departments in the company. And about a couple of years later, he contacts me. He says, hey, Rocco, that was pretty funny. He goes, that email you sent me. And I said, what email? What are you talking about? And he goes, yeah. He goes, it has to be you because, it's the kind of stuff that we talk about. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So he forwards me the email. I'm reading and I'm like, oh, this is really cool, man. I said, I don't know who this guy is, but you got to keep this going on. And he kept on thinking, it's definitely you. Like, stop toying with me. And I'm like, it's not me. So the first email was basically telling my friend, stop, you don't know what you're talking about. All the information you're putting out there is incorrect. Everything that you think is wrong, and he just kind of went, it was a big, long email. But then the emails started going back and forth. And this person, or in the end, he said he was a Sumerian god, had a real interesting original take on a lot of the origins of mankind, the universe, and it was really deep and profound. I'm reading this and never contradicted themselves, because my friend kept trying to saying, hey man, it's like last time you said this. It's like, no, I never said that. And so it constantly corrected my friend. Then other people got involved because I started printing the emails. I left them on my desk. Other people started grabbing them and saying, what's this stuff, man? This is amazing. But I didn't know how to put it together in a book. So I was like, what do I do with this stuff? So I had it in a drawer. And then I think it was like 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, I pulled out my folder, dusted it off, and I said, I don't know if I still have the original emails. Maybe I do somewhere, I don't know. But I started just typing them into the computer, typing everything that this Damu person had. And as I'm writing it, the book wrote itself. And it's doing fairly well. It's even through podcasts and whatever, because people are like, yeah, emails from a Sumerian, really a god is going to send emails? I'm like, well, your god spoke through a donkey and through a burning bush. So
I was fixing to say.
I'm like, well, you take the medium, because this was like pretty much at the beginning of the internet. So when I looked up Damu at the time, I couldn't find anything. I see the Sumerian gods. I'm like, Damu's not one of them. But now if you look it up, Damu seems to be the god of vegetation or something. So I'm like, okay, so this person actually, whoever it was, which we don't know, because it lasted like a good 6 months. And then we had other people involved. Other people were asking questions. So at first, when I was thinking of putting into a book, I go, do I put the emails and then what I interpret them to be? But I go, that's kind of like wrong, because that's my interpretation. Or do I just tell the story of me and my friend and then the whole email and everything that transpired? I say, I'll go that route. And so that's what I did. It's a very short book. I think it's under 90 pages, but it's it's one that I find, like the emails I had to read over and over again, because you're, like I said, it was very different from what I believed or heard of. like even one thing that he had indicated, because I think we brought up the question of the grays, which are, the aliens that everybody talks about, right? The ones who probe you and, big eyes, bug eyes. And Damu had said, well, those are actually humans from the future. And I was like, but now it seems to be something that is a theory that seems to be having more, people are more into that theory of the fact that it's actually just human time travelers that eventually, whatever happens, maybe a million years from now, that's what we end up looking like. I don't know. But it was interesting that at the time that I got in my, or heard it through this Damu person, it wasn't even something that I even heard of before. Like I didn't hear that one, but now it seems to be, now if I do a search on Google, you'll see more and more people that are into the grays are indicating that's one belief that they have. So I'm like, okay, well, not that I say that I believe 100% of what Damu had written. For me, it was just very, very interesting, original material.
Mhm.
Did I change my beliefs because of this whole experience? No. Did I find it intriguing that that's possible? Yes. Will it change my day-to-day life if I believe in it? No. So then but there was some stuff in there that I said, okay, that's a very interesting, theory, that this, because even the Damu person was saying with his gods, he's considered pretty much like a teenager, he's probably like, whatever, I don't know, 15,000 years old. He's like a teenager, and he goes, the elders would probably disagree with what I'm telling you. So they all probably have their own version. Sort of like you can take 10 Christians in a room and ask them who God is, and you're going to have 10 different answers.
True.
It's like everybody has a version of something. So Damu was saying this is his version of the way he sees things, or she sees things. I don't know.
That's fascinating because outside of doing this, I'm a paranormal investigator too. So
Cool.
Maybe you should go on a hunt with us.
Go down to Texas.
Come on down.
and anything interesting out of that?
I got some stories to tell, but we'll save
Cool.
that for another time. I want to kind of use me as an example. I'm in my 50s, and I'm now doing something that I really enjoy. I didn't pursue a lot of the dreams that I had as a kid. There's people out there that's like me, that their family and friends always discouraged those things. Like, oh no, you need to stick with your job you have now. I've worked for the city, and it's got good benefits and good retirement and all, and that's a great thing to have. But I really regret not chasing my dreams. Now, granted, my dreams have changed because doing podcasting wasn't a thing when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But did you run across that, or did you have nothing but encouragement?
For sure. I mean, to tell you the truth, my parents were very encouraging, which was great. My dad and my mother backed me up with whatever I wanted to do. So when I wanted to get into to music, they had no issues with it. But I mean, I'm not schooled in music, right? I didn't go like Berkeley or learn how to read music and all that great stuff. I just dabbled in it by ear, having fun with it. If I needed, guitar solo, I would hire somebody, or I would find a friend to do it. So I didn't have to learn how to play lead guitar. Now with YouTube, it's like I'm teaching myself some lead guitar stuff. And like yourself, I'm in my 50s. Like I said, when I went through the depression and started working on my album, at that point I realized, okay, I have to make time for doing things that make me happy. I need to work on my music, my craft. So even though I had a full-time job during the day, I always made time nights and weekends, still with the family. But the thing is, we're talking about, I'm a night owl. So anytime after 10 p.m., wife's already in bed, the kids are in bed, I could start working on writing my music, writing lyrics. With the internet, what's been great too is to, there's internet collaborations. I did a blues-inspired album with Kevin Rees. He's a guy from the UK who's living in Japan. He had put like an instrumental on one of these places where you're looking for singers. So I heard it and I was like, I really love it. I want to take part in it. He's like, oh, I already have somebody, and I said, okay. But then a month later, he said, the guy, I haven't heard back from him. You want to give it a shot? And we've written like maybe like 12, 13 songs together now. Because there's one thing that I do is I don't take my time, meaning that I will do something and I'll do it quickly. So if somebody's looking for something, I've worked with people where, that's why I've ended up doing my own editing, doing my own sound design, doing my own, music and stuff like that. It's because when you're waiting for somebody else, it's like you're just waiting and you're twiddling your thumbs. So you gotta do it yourself. And so so when he sent me the song, I think within a day I sent him, lyrics, me singing it, a rough take, to kind of give him an idea of what I can do with it. And he's like, you did this like in a day? I'm like, yeah, I mean, you get inspired by it. And I believe I'm a channeler versus a songwriter. The song writes itself. Like, I don't know what happens. I listen to music, I just get inspired, and it just comes out. And even like when I'm writing my films, like even the dinner party, is I don't even know what's happening next. So I'm like, okay, so it's 6 people invited to a dinner party. So I'm just, okay, why are they there? What's going on? I don't know. I'm typing away and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's, it's like, I don't even know what's happening next. So I find it's almost like channeling, because it's not like I sit there and say, okay, I got the beginning, middle, and end. I know, and I just got to write it out. No, it writes itself as you're going along. And I like that, even with lyrics or even music, it's the same thing. So that, I'd say to you, just, there's no reason why you can't do both. You can still pursue music or film or any, painting, you name it. I have a bum shoulder, but I just signed up to do badminton. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna suffer through it, but I like playing badminton. I used to like playing badminton. I don't know when that was, when I played it last, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna sign up and do it again. Like, there's no reason why you can't do it all. And I get a lot of people saying, well, where do you find the time? I have a very understanding wife, for starters.
That's great.
Right. So she understands that, that I'm an artist and I need an outlet. Some people have, some people take boxing as their outlet. I was doing karate for a while. That was a great outlet, to get your frustrations out on the fact that, yeah, I'm doing a 9 to 5 and you're just punching away, getting that frustration out. But at the same time, like, I mean, I kept communication with a lot of artists, and there were times when I said, damn, I'm glad I have a 9 to 5, right? Because I could see that, the issues of being an artist, where you don't know where your next paycheck's coming. You don't have that security. So I looked at the positive of having the 9 to 5, in the sense that I'm getting paid every 2 weeks. I have, dental coverage. I have this and that. I have money going towards a pension. I'm able to put money away for my retirement. And now I'm in a position where, I don't need to do that 9 to 5 anymore. I'm done with that whole lifestyle. That I have more freedom now, and now I can. That's why I was able to do this feature film, which is, it took 10 weeks to do the editing full time, right? So I had the ability to do that. I've taken some time off. I just said to my wife, I said, you know what? I need a break. I need to work on my craft. And been working at this company for 20 something years. They actually packaged me out, and it was perfect, because at the end I started to really get on their nerves, mostly on purpose, to kind of say, you know what, got to get this old man out of here. He's he's grumpy.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as I got out, I said, okay, I got a film to write. I got, I said, one of the first thing I was going to do when I would stop the corporate lifestyle was to do a feature. But I really thought, if I'm going to do a feature, it's going to be a 3-month, I went with the program of that's out there, and it says it's going to be 3 months. And I'm like, where am I going to find actors that have 3 months to dedicate? And where am I going to get the funding for this? But I believe in, like I said, sending messages to the universe. And to give you a good example is there's somebody that that lives nearby that I've never really spoken to. We just kind of say hi as you walk by each other. This person's in film. I didn't know that. So we just finally had a sit down and spoke. And it's like, he's got some contacts. I'm just like, wow. It's like, he goes, I can, get grants and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, like this is good. So I think that the more you get out there, the more it's like buying a lottery ticket. If you don't buy a lottery ticket, you can't win. Yes, buying a lottery ticket is just another form of tax. Some people say, it's just a waste. I'm like, yeah, but you can't win if you don't buy one, right? And it's the same thing with anything that you enjoy doing, whether, like I said, it's painting, renovations, interior design, anything that you've set aside because you're now focused on the security of having a job. You can still do that stuff. It's just, and sometimes it might pay off. Like, I'm crossing my fingers. You don't know what's going to happen, but maybe the next project I'll have a grant and I'll be able to shoot a feature with actual budget. I don't know what to do with the budget because I never worked on a project with a budget. So I'm like, well, I mean, I know, like, for example, union actors get paid stupid money versus non-union actors. So these are things that I have to take in consideration if I get a grant. But I say to you, just enjoy. I mean, right now, like you say, you're doing a podcast. You're doing, if you're still doing music, you can still do it at night. You can still do it on weekends. There's no reason why a 9 to 5 will prevent you from pursuing your dreams.
I'm not an expert, but I think that's one of the contributing factors to the mental health problems we're having, is people are not pursuing the things that really make them happy, or going for it.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to be an actor. You have to take some time to go try out for a movie, but you can still work your job. I'm in a way fortunate. I'm disabled, so I can't work. This is my thing. But that, irregardless, I feel it's very important that you do pursue those things you love, and even if you're the only one that likes it, at least you're doing what you like to do.
Yeah. And like I said, you just have to keep doing it. Like anything, practice makes perfect. And sometimes just being the right place. And I'd say that 99.9% is being in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty much how I mean, in the 90s, I was working in a recording studio, and then we started releasing tracks. Yes, I mean, it was Euro dance, and I was rapping, but I didn't, I look back now, like when I was doing it, I was just like, this is not what I want to do musically. But royalty checks are coming in, record companies are hiring me. I was like, this is, and it was just because I enjoyed rapping, and so it was like it was natural for me at the time. It was just fun to do, at parties and karaoke and things like that. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, I'm actually doing it on recordings. And again, right place, right time. I was in a studio that was doing that stuff, and the person came in, canceled, or like, oh my God, we have the studio booked, whatever, we need a rapper. And I'm like, hello. And they're like, you're at you? And I had the long hair and the leather jacket, looked like a heavy metal guy. like, really? You're gonna put you on the mic? They put me on the mic, and it was like, okay. And so I had quite a bit of success with that. Again, right place, right time. I just finished doing a short film because somebody had posted on Facebook saying, hey, I just wrote this short script. Can somebody read it and give me feedback? So we had a Zoom call. I had read it and I gave him my feedback on it. Then he's like, are you Italian? I said, yeah. He goes, because we're going to film this actually in Italian. And he goes, and we're short an actor. Would you like to, be part of that? So had I not, contacted him to say, yeah, sure, like I'll read your script, took the time to do that, paid forward, right? Saying, people have done that for me too, where they've read my script and give me feedback. So it's about paying forward, I think, works every time.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do, I hate to say it, but you shouldn't be doing a paid forward hoping to get something back. But it just happens, right? So it's a domino effect. So I read this, and then the part was to play a bishop. So I'm like, oh my god, like I got the whole costume, they'll be on my head, and the big cross, and I was like, this is cool. Like I feel powerful, like a superhero. But I was like, and then was in Italian. I've never done anything. I mean, I speak Italian because that's my background, but I've never acted in Italian or learned lines in Italian. But it was like, had I not, done that, I wouldn't have gotten this. If I didn't speak to my neighbor, I wouldn't know that he was in film, right? If you don't put yourself out there and be, not to say that you're ready to fail, because all failures lead to success, and try again, right? But it's about just not being afraid to fall down and get back up. And and that's the thing is, people are afraid to fall down. They're afraid of criticism. They're afraid of being hate. I mean, I've got so many haters. It's insane, especially now with with the internet. You didn't really know you had haters before, but now with the internet, you have haters. But it's like, what? It's like, you have to be, I think my younger self in today's world would probably would have curled up in the fetal position from all the criticism. But I'm at a point where I don't really give a beep, about any of that. So it's sort of like, I'm doing it for myself. I need to put it out there, and that's it. So there's no like, I don't need somebody to give me 800 likes. I don't feed off that. It's nice to get. I'm not going to say,
yeah, for
sure, but it's not the purpose. The purpose is, like I said, for me, success is finishing the product or whatever I'm working on and putting it out there. The feature film is like, we were short one person. I could have just said, you know what, I'm going to cancel it. We'll take this in 2 months' time or whatever, because we lost one of the main actors. No, we're still going to do it. We'll figure it out. We'll adapt it. We'll take some of the lines from that person, give it to somebody else. We will make this work. And we did. And like I said, we've already picked up a few awards for it. Had I not done it, if I just, and a lot of people would do that. They would say, you know what? Sorry, I'm gonna have to cancel, guys. I know you booked a hotel in Montreal. Sorry, but you're just gonna have to go sightsee. Have a good day. Click, and then that person's gonna hate me. We'll never work together. You just gotta roll with the punches and just keep at it. Like I said, when I look at my artist friends that are doing this full time, I have a lot of respect for them, because I know that, like I said, they don't have the security, they don't have the dental coverage, they don't know, they're sometimes struggling to pay their rent because of the fact that they're waiting or chasing after somebody for money. I'm just like, so that part, I'm like, I'm glad, that's not me. Like, I don't have that problem. I have that security. So if I have that security and I have, like I said, I've got a place to sleep, I've got money to buy certain equipment, why not do it? I have like my, people say that, even people that don't have any other aspirations will say, well, this job is to pay my mortgage, right? Not everybody's, the majority of people, well, maybe not the majority, but quite a few people are not like doing the job of their dreams, right? They're doing it to pay the mortgage, which is fine. But if you're paying off the mortgage, why not also use that 9 to 5 to pursue what you really wanted to do? So, I'm going to be working on a short film later this month. I'm not being paid, but I'm like, big deal.
It's exposure, though.
It's exposure, but at the same time, it's sort of like, I don't, I'm okay. Like, I don't need to think about my next meal. Like, it's sort of like, I can do this for free. I can spend a few days working on the short film, have a great time. Like you said, get the exposure, but some people will say, well, I can't, because I gotta feed myself, because they don't have that 9 to 5 or that security blanket that I currently have, that I can go and work on projects now that before I couldn't do it. Like, I'm not going to take time off work to work on something for free. I can't. Like, I need that paycheck. but I could work on my own projects for free, at night, weekends. And that's something I think that people need to do is, I mean, I never thought I would be an author. I've already got, 3 books. One's a children's book. One's a travel experience with my family where we went we've gone to Europe quite a few times, but my son was like 4, my daughter was not even 1. And people automatically say, what, you're going to go to Greece and Italy? Like, are you crazy? Like, with little kids and whatever. And by day 2, I started seeing like it was Murphy's Law. There was all these crazy things happening, right? I think my daughter was crying all the time. If we found out later she had an ear infection and little things like that. And, so I started writing down, almost like in diary form, like everything that was happening every day in our trip. And then, I decided, well, I thought it was going to be, I put it together for the kids when they grow up. You can read about that particular trip we took. But then I turned it into a book and, put it out there. And it's just, but I never thought I'd be writing books. Damu Chronicles, like I said, wrote itself. Now I've got, other projects I'm looking at doing. One is going to be about my music career. Everything from when I started picking up the guitar all the way till now. I mean, there's some successes in there. There's failures in there. There's there's all kinds of stuff in there. Yes, it's, I'm not this, worldwide artist playing arenas, but there's still, I think, stuff that would be inspirational for some people, just to see like, okay, it's like, it is possible. Like I said, when I was doing this dance music stuff, it's, people are saying, oh, you're selling out, I'm like, I'm getting royalty checks and I'm on the charts. So I'm like, I'm good with that. I mean, at one point, I think I was on a chart and I'm looking at the names on a chart. You had U2 and whatever, and it's like, and then the project I'm working on, I'm like, it's like, frame that. Got to frame it. I don't,
Oh, heck yeah, man. Why not?
Yeah,
Speaking of,
yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of music, who's the best guitarist in Canada? Would it be Rick Emmett or Eric Leifson?
Very good. I really like Rick.
That's
I really do.
Yeah. He's my favorite. I love Triumph, man.
Did you see? There was I just watched it recently. There's a documentary. I don't know if it's been available in the States. It was a documentary on Triumph, and oh, it's excellent. It's excellent if you get a chance to see it. It's I forgot what it's called again, but it's on Triumph, and it's I watched it. It's great, but again, it shows you, like, I've been on forums where people are like, oh, I hate, the fact that, I have to put my music in a specific, genre in order to get it played. Like, I'm an artist, and I'm just like, you need to bend. If you're not able to bend and you don't follow the rules to a certain degree, you're never gonna get your stuff heard. It's got to be 3.5 minutes max. Yes, you can have all. He goes, yeah, but look at Pink Floyd and all. I said, you're not Pink Floyd. And that was a whole different time. If Pink Floyd was out today, I don't think they could do what they were doing, right? Like, it just wouldn't. Everybody was doing, 7-8 minute pieces back then, right? It was kind of like the norm. But you always would have a commercial track that could be edited down. The radio stations would edit every song down. Even the Pink Floyd songs were edited down to 3.5 minutes, whether they were 8 minutes. So you have to, you have to be able to do that. And so when I hear people saying, I know, but I'm an artist, and that's like, it's a give or take in anything. If you want to be your artist, then don't complain about the fact that you're not getting played, that you're not getting, stuff on Spotify playlists or things like that. Because of the fact that you're not willing to follow the at least on one of your tracks, just one track. No, I don't want to sell out. I don't want to sell out. And I'm like, well, then look, keep complaining.
You were talking about Pink Floyd. Okay, even though they were under the category of prog rock, their sound changed all the time. Look at the Beatles. I mean, they were pop rock, but the Beatles from when they first started till they broke up is nowhere near the same.
No. And also, if you look at the Beatles, it's like, when you've got that much of a following, you can come out with a 10-minute song and it's going to get played. right? Because you're because you've tested the waters. Their first songs were all like 2 minutes, and they were like you said, really really poppy. And then you get to a certain point, it's like, what, I can put out a song that's 5-8 minutes or whatever, because I've proven myself. It's and people have to realize that it's not like they're selling out. Like you said, the Beatles, you're just growing, and you're doing stuff that you enjoy. And it's like, you think Mick Jagger is when he jumps on stage is got the energy to sing Satisfaction to he's probably like, what, I'm done with this song. But it's like the audience loves it, and when I play it, the energy I get is incredible. So yeah, I love that song. But other people watching, it's, I can't. If I was him, I'd be like, I would stop playing that song. Really? Like, no, you have to play it. You have to play it.
I think if he jumped on stage now, he might break a bone.
Well, I think they're going on tour, right? Even though Charlie Watts is no longer there.
Yeah.
But for me, my favorite Canadian musician is Tony Springer, who's the guy who played on my on my album.
You're biased, though.
Well, I'm biased, but for me, I was working in a record store, and we had a stage with HMV, right? And he came in with his it was a 3-piece band, and very Hendrix sounding. And then he just kind of like hung his guitar, and it was just the feedback was going, and I was just like, who the hell is this guy? So I started going to see all his shows. And then he's played with Jeff Healey even called him a god, and then David Bowie picked him up, and I was just like, yeah, it's like other people are seeing what I'm seeing, and I've seen him live, I've seen him play. He's also at times, and still does to this day, like a Jimi Hendrix experience, because people want to see him. He's a dude from Trinidad, and he grew up. He didn't even know. I remember when I spoke to him, and even in interviews early in his career, he was like, he didn't even know who Jimi Hendrix was. He was a big Yes fan. In Trinidad, that's what he was listening to. And then when he came, it's tall, thin, black dude. It's like automatically you got to think Jimi Hendrix, right? So he started listening to Jimi Hendrix and loving, what he was hearing. But he said, he goes, even when he plays the Jimi Hendrix stuff, or does I think they go under the name Fire. Even when he does that, it's like, he plays it his way, but he still plays with his teeth behind his back and the whole shebang. He's a really great guitarist. So that for me is my personal favorite. But Rick Emmett is high up. There's, we have quite a few in Canada, but yeah, Rick Emmett for me is, and if you watch that documentary, it's incredible. But again, you see how they had to bend quite a few times. Even at the end, they were pretty much told, like, you need a commercial tune, and so people are just like, they already had their following, they're already doing arenas. Record label still said, guys,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, but that's the reality, right? It's sort of like, you got to sell records, and they were, they hadn't, kind of like no choice. And I said, so if a group like Triumph, who was like as big as they were, still had that pressure. And even if I look at Elvis Presley, he had to make all these crappy movies. He hated them all. He hated the songs he had to sing. I mean, like, you're Elvis Presley, but this is what was given to him, and this is the cards that were dealt. He was stuck doing Vegas because of his his manager's debts. It's sad in that particular sense. It's sad, but it's the same time, it's, you're giving the audience what they want. You're still kind of doing what you like, but it just, I think Elvis in his case was a whole different ballgame. He really was taken majorly advantage of. But yeah, you still have to have that one commercial track, no matter who you are. Yeah, unfortunately, but
Metallica did it.
Yep.
I mean, you think a band like Metallica would never make something that would be a radio hit, but they did.
Yeah. A lot of groups do that.
Where would people be able to see your movie?
Well, right now, like I said, it's doing the festival run, so I can't have it available on, eventually I'll put it on YouTube after the festival run, but that's going to be probably about a year from now. And I'm hoping, right, this is the whole thing, is you hope that it gets picked up for distribution, for video on demand and things like that. That's the whole point of going through these festivals, is trying to get somebody to say, okay, you know what, I want to put this on my video on demand. So that's what I'm hoping for. And again, if we get to that point, it's going to be like, again, zero budget movie, and you know, I'm playing on whatever, on some video on demand. It's like, wow.
You know, a lot of the independent filmmakers that I've talked to, they're getting their stuff put on Tubi, and I think Tubi is going to blow up eventually.
Yeah.
Honestly. But do you have a website?
No, I just go through the Facebook. So I have this under facebook.com/ROCKOPAOLOI, the letter I. So yeah, so that's where most of my stuff will be found.
Okay. Are you on Instagram or any of those other?
Yeah, but my Instagram account, like I said, I'm all over the map with my stuff. So my Instagram account seems to be only photography for right now, unless I create another one. My Twitter account is under my record label name. So it's Triple Joint Rec, REC, so Triple Joint REC. So I sometimes post, I don't post as much on Twitter as I should. But most of the stuff, like I said, I'll put on my Facebook page, which also I have a Facebook page for the dinner party. I have a Facebook page for the Damo Chronicles. Eventually, like I said, at one point I wanted to put together a website, but I'm like, musically I go under 3 monikers, because of the fact that even record companies would always tell me, Rocco, we don't even know where to place you. Sometimes you're doing country, sometimes you're doing blues, sometimes you're doing hip hop. It's like, what do we do? We can't. So I said, you know what, I'm going to create at least 3 different categories where I can somewhat place my music. So I have Rocco Paulo, I have Paulo I, and I have West of West. And West of West is kind of like a throwback, got like 80s and 90s feel to it, but it's going to be hip hop. It's going to be, you know, Depeche Mode kind of stuff. And then you'll have Paulo I, who does more pop country, and then Rocco Paulo, under that one I do mostly blues. And then, like I said, I do collaborations. So I even have a project I'm working on now where I'm trying to just do the music and have other people sing it. And I think I'm calling that too sporadic. So I'm just all over the map with that. So I was like, if I do a web page, like, do I put it under, you know, it's roccopaulo.com? Do I put it under triplejointrecords.com? Is it, which, you know, I couldn't figure out, because, and then there's the film, there's the books. So
musical ADHD.
Pretty much. I got my hand in too many pots. You know, it's that whole thing of, you know, was it jack of all trades, master of none? I pretty much feel that way too. I'm not a master of none of them, but I just dabble in everything and just enjoy everything. So it's just like, yeah, sometimes it's, you know, instrumental. Like with my son, he's taken up piano and starting to do compositions. It's all instrumental soundtrack type stuff. So you know, we co-wrote one track together. So it's like, you know, and because of working on my film, it's like getting into that whole soundtrack type stuff. It's not something that for me, it's more work than when I'm channeling music. Like I actually have to think, because I have to try and make the music kind of accentuate the images, right? When you're doing film, you have to make sure it follows it. So it's not 4/4, and it's not, you have to kind of like make it move with the action. But again, it's sort of like, you know, it's for me, I find that fun. I like the challenge of it. I like the you know, the fact that, you know, like I said, I don't care what other people think. Like I know people are going to watch this feature film of mine and say the sound or the lighting or whatever it may be. And it's like, you know what, did you watch it? Did you just like sit there and enjoy the movie? I have difficulty too when I'm watching a movie. I have to agree that sometimes I watch a movie and I'll say, oh man, I can't believe you know, they did that camera angle, but that's me. But I was watching an episode of Good Doctor, because my wife loves that show, and I have to say I kind of like it too. And there was a scene, I think, where he had like a bow tie, and every time they moved the camera back to him, it was either undone and was back together, was undone, back together. I'm like, okay, these guys have a big budget, and here I am, you know, like suffering through all my editing, trying to get it as perfect as possible. I'm like, and mine is zero budget. So I'm like, you know what? I have to stop it and say, you know what? If a big budget like that has error that's so clear, and there's sites that show you every single error in movies, right? I mean, these things happen, and they're big budget films. So I'm like, you know what? I have to, just kind of like live with the little errors that I have that for me are huge, right? That nobody else will notice.
I would love to do a show where we just talked about all the errors that are in Star Wars, because I could sit there and point them out. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But if you would, could you email me all your links so I could put them in the description and make it
Sure.
easier for the folks to just click on?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And let me know when you have any other projects come up. I'd love to help promote them.
Perfect. That would be great. This was
I-
fun, man.
It really was. I enjoyed this, and I thank you for your time, man. I know time is precious. You spending it here with me it's been a treat.
Been a treat for me too. I really enjoyed.
And
I love your mic. I love your mic, by the way, too.
You like that? You like?
It's a blue, right? I think, or
This is in a Zuzi, I think is what it's called. And I think we picked it up at Best Buy. It was on sale. That's the only reason why I got it. But it's pretty nice. People comment on it. If it would get me more views, that would be awesome. But no, thank you. And I also want to thank all y'all out there. If you happen by the channel and this is your first time, I appreciate it. I hope you'll come back. Please subscribe. If you are regular, thank you for that support, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network